The radical statement approved by the UNP Working Committee has pointed out the need for a governance mechanism which upholds the people's sovereignty as opposed to the system where power is vested in one person. However, UNP parliamentarians, intellectuals and the Mahasangha point out that the policies being introduced to the country through this radical statement are not being followed by either the Working Committee or the leader or within the party.
The UNP's radical statement was approved by the Working Committee at a meeting at Sirikothe yesterday, presided by Party Leader Ranil Wickremesinghe. Its second point states the following under the third sub-point. A new strengthened constitution which provides for devolution of power and limits the tenure in office of the President and other key office bearers, a cabinet system that confirms people's sovereignty instead of the prevailing system where all power is vested in one person, and a representative governance system which is accountable to Parliament.
තමා සම්මතයේ පිහිටා සිට කියන කියමන එක්සත් ජාතික පක්ෂ නායකත්වය විපක්ෂයේ ඉඳිද්දී.
While in the opposition, this leadership is not allowing free speech or opinion within the party. They should reveal to the people how they are going to limit the power of an individual. This is the double-faced stance of the UNP leadership. He has fallen to the place of someone who doesn't say what he does and doesn't do what he says. We need to state to the United National Party leadership that before bringing democracy to the country, they should bring democracy to the party which they are heading and ensure that the party MPs are given the freedom of expression. We also need to tell the UNP leadership that before bringing about a radical change to the country, they should get a medical. By 1st of December, this system will change again and steps are in place to secure power for 6 years. So the radical statement has one story and there's another completely different story. The Working Committee will approve these on the same day. This is a funny state of affairs. The radical statement which was approved yesterday and the matter on the 18th are both similar, so there is no basis for this disciplinary action. I wish to state that based on the decision by the Working Committee, the points of the disciplinary hearing become null and void.
රැඩිකල් ප්‍රකාශය 18 වෙනිදා කාරණා දෙකම එක නිසා
වැඩපිළිවෙලේ තියෙන එකට පටහැනි ඉදිරියේදී.
This radical politics has an agenda. On December 1st, our party leader will extend his tenure to 6 years. This is a program to gather powers around one person. So if we don't approve the vesting of power in one person, how will the Working Committee approve it on the 1st of December to extend the leader's tenure by 6 years? My question is whether they sat bare-bodied before a mirror and wrote all this. I was laughing when I read about how the present leadership, without respecting the radical policy, is questioning how this situation should prevail in the country. This states that the tenure of the President and main office bearers should be limited. This is very good. This is the party that didn't even speak on the 18th Amendment. But within the party, they are trying to extend the leadership tenure.
U.S. Ambassador to Sri Lanka, Michelle J. Sisson, says that a culture of respecting intellectual property rights should take root among the Sri Lankan business community. She added that the U.S. Embassy in Sri Lanka will do all it can to facilitate this process. Ambassador Sisson made these comments during an event in Colombo yesterday.
The American Chamber of Commerce in Sri Lanka held a business forum in Colombo yesterday. A book on protecting intellectual property rights was also launched during the forum.
I know that Sri Lanka has long cut a path as being among the forward thinkers on this issue of IPR protection, and we've really tried at the U.S. Embassy to work with Sri Lankan business and government to help strengthen, I would say, the business climate and the culture.
As at the end of August, while loans to the private sector from the banking system have reduced, loans to the government have increased considerably. The opposition points out that the government is compelled to obtain loans from the banking system in order to cover up the losses of state institutions.
The latest data issued by the Central Bank of Sri Lanka shows that the 35.7 billion rupees in loans obtained by the private sector from commercial banks in July reduced sharply to 14.5 billion rupees in August. However, the government obtained 35 billion rupees in loans in August. Accordingly, in the 12 months ending this August, the government has obtained 1,031.5 billion rupees in loans from the banking system, an increase of 36.6% year on year. Economists point out that the government's expectation through the increasing of interest rates in February and the depreciation of the rupee was to limit credit from the banking system.
The objective of the policy adjustment in February this year obviously was to reduce the credit expansion, which led to the balance of payments crisis, because holding the rupee artificially high and the interest rates artificially low led to the huge surge in imports and the resulting 10 billion trade deficit. So the objective was to reduce the expansion of credit both in the private sector and the public sector. Now what has happened is the private sector credit expansion has slowed down. In fact, for the first time, it has fallen to under 30% growth year on year. But the expansion of credit to the public sector and the government corporations has increased. Now the issue is when the private sector takes a loan, the banks won't give it unless they are certain they will be used for productive purposes. But with the state and its organs, they are taking these loans to close the gap in large loss-making state-owned enterprises. So therefore, credit is expanding for unproductive purposes. So this is not a very good development.
Let's now take a look at the newspaper cartoon of the day.
You're watching news first. Up next is Action TV.
Last Thursday, Action TV revealed the manner in which about 800 families were rendered helpless due to the non-implementation of the program One Project One Village to build a waterway for which 1 million rupees was allocated on the road from Thanamalwila, Damvellodaya to Kotavehera Mankawa, which commenced in June this year and was abandoned 2 months ago. While the program was in effect from June, the technical officer attached to the Thanamalwila Divisional Secretariat, who didn't make an appearance to assess its progress, was quick to respond following the revelation made by Action TV. While the contractor arrived at this location, the area Samurdhi Committee chairman revealed to Action TV that it was he who placed the signature before the Divisional Secretary last May and not the contractor. When these irregularities were being brought to light regarding this contractor, the technical officer left the location. The effort made to rectify this project by the technical officer upon his instructions were made clear by the rains that flooded the entire area the next day. While the program has now been abandoned, wildlife officials yesterday uncovered a racket of illegal soil mining from the Dahai-Yagala reserve on the pretext of using it for this project.
කියන මත මම මේ 1G ඩිපාර්ට්මන්ට්ේ විමසෙන්න කියලා කතා කරා. අපිට මේක ඇතෑරියොත් වෙන්නේ මහත්තයා අපිට මේක කරන්න බෑ නේද? නේද? ඔව් සර් මේ හරි සර් මේ පස්සේ සර් කතා කරන්න අපි මේ මොකද දන්නවද අපි බේරෙන්න බෑ. අපි කරන්නේ රජේ රස්සාවන්නේ.
Disregarding the order of the police OIC, the wildlife officials presented facts before the Vallavaya courts. The JCB operator who admitted his fault was fined 20,000 rupees and 28 lakhs surety bail, and the machine was released to the owner. Meanwhile, as a result of ad hoc solutions being provided for the waterway, nearby fields have also been affected. Secretary to the Ministry of Economic Development, this is over to you. $39,175 road accidents reported in 2011. Of these, 2,273 fatal road accidents. 2,501 people killed in road accidents in 2011. About 10 people are disabled daily due to road accidents. One person is killed in a road accident every 4 hours. 107 people are injured daily in road accidents. Isn't there a dire need for a program to prevent road accidents?
Starting off international news this evening, criminal investigators from France will exhume the remains of Yasser Arafat next month to try to find out how the Palestinian leader died. The Associated Press quoted a French official as saying that the team of investigators from France will arrive in the West Bank city of Ramallah between the 24th and 26th of November. Palestinian authorities confirmed the timetable and said a separate Swiss investigative team would also arrive in Ramallah at the same time. The push to re-examine circumstances surrounding Arafat's November 2004 death came after a Swiss lab discovered traces of polonium-210, a deadly radioactive isotope, on clothes said to be his. The discovery revived suspicions of poisoning. The immediate cause of Arafat's death was a stroke, but the underlying source of an illness he suffered in his final weeks has never been cleared.
Now, millions of pounds in foreign aid to Uganda have been funneled into private bank accounts of workers at the Prime Minister's office. The UK's Daily Mail reports that the money was meant to have been spent on helping the needy in the poverty-ravaged African nation. But instead, the €12 million or £10 million, a joint gift from Ireland, Norway, Denmark and Sweden, somehow wound up in the accounts belonging to aides of Prime Minister Patrick Amama. Meanwhile, Britain and Ireland have frozen all aid payments to the Prime Minister's office. The apparent fraud was discovered when the Irish government was told by Ugandan auditors that the €12 million had gone missing.
Meanwhile, across the Atlantic, millions of people across the U.S. Northeast, stricken by Superstorm Sandy, will attempt to resume normal lives today as companies, markets and airports reopen, despite grim projections of power and mass transit outages lasting several more days. Meanwhile, President Mahinda Rajapaksa has informed Sri Lanka's Deputy Permanent Representative to the UN in New York, Major General Shavendra Silva, to look into the welfare of Sri Lankan nationals who have been affected by the superstorm.
According to the US National Weather Service, Sandy, which has killed 40 people in the United States, pushed inland and dumped snow in the Appalachian Mountains. It's remained slowed over Pennsylvania and it is expected to move north towards western New York and Canada. Blizzard warnings and coastal flood warnings for the shores of the Great Lakes were in effect. Battered by a record storm surge of nearly 14 feet of water, swaths of New York City remain submerged under several feet of water. In the city's borough of Staten Island, police used helicopters to pluck stranded residents from rooftops. There was total darkness in Breezy Point, Queens, where a massive fire gutted about 100 homes. More than 8.2 million homes and businesses remained without electricity across several states as trees toppled by fierce winds tore down power lines.